I didn't see it coming. Honestly, whoever does. My name is Michael, and I am about to share a story that turned my life upside down. It all started not too long ago. My wife Jenna, a vibrant and ambitious woman, suddenly declared she needed space. Space. I was blindsided. We had been married for 5 years, and while I knew relationships had their ups and downs, I thought we had weathered our stormy patches. Jenna was always the life of the party, funny, outgoing, and driven. I loved that about her, but something felt off in the months leading to her request. She seemed distracted. Late-night text messages, increased time spent at the gym, and a noticeable drop in our intimacy. At first, I chalked it up to work stress. After all, she was climbing the corporate ladder in her marketing firm. I believed in supporting her, so I gave her the space she asked for, thinking it was just a phase. I started spending more time with my buddies, diving into my own work and trying to respect her wishes. But every time I'd call or text, she seemed more distant. She was evasive, her replies curt. I told myself I was overthinking everything. I tried to shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. Deep down, though, I felt a creeping sense of unease. Then came the day everything changed. I was at home, enjoying a rare moment of solitude when my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Lisa, my neighbor and a close friend of ours. She was concerned. "Hey Michael, I just saw Jenna with a guy at the bar down the street. Are you okay?" My heart sank. Alarm bells rang in my head. I brushed it off initially. Maybe she was just having drinks with a coworker, but my mind raced. I called Lisa, hoping for more clarity. "You sure it was her?" I asked, holding my breath. Lisa assured me it was Jenna and that she looked cozy with this guy. I felt my blood boil. Who the hell was he? I had to know for sure. I decided to drive over to the bar, a place Jenna and I used to enjoy together. As I parked, the knot in my stomach tightened. I approached the entrance, and through the glass windows there she was. Jenna, laughing, flirting, and leaning in close to this other man. My heart shattered. Her head tossed back in laughter, her hand touching his arm. It felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't know what to do. Confront her, scream. I felt like a fool standing outside watching the woman I loved betray me right before my eyes. I was trembling. I left, my heart heavy with betrayal, rage coursing through my veins. I spent the next few hours wrestling with my emotions. How could she do this to me? After everything we had built together. The next day was a blur. I barely slept, haunted by images of her with that guy. I knew I had to confront her. We were supposed to talk that evening, and as I paced around our living room, I prepared for the inevitable showdown. I rehearsed every line, every question, but nothing could prepare me for what was to come. When Jenna walked through the door, she looked radiant, too radiant. Her makeup was on point, and she wore that dress I loved. I felt bile rise in my throat as the scent of her perfume wafted through the air. I knew she was hiding something. As we sat down to talk, I took a deep breath and let the words spill out. "Where were you last night, Jenna?" Her eyes darted, and for a split second I saw fear. But then she recovered, adopting that ever-bitchy tone I had grown accustomed to. "I was out with friends. You know I told you I needed space, right?" I pressed on. "Lisa saw you with someone, Jenna. You looked more than just friends." I braced myself for her reaction, my heart racing wildly as I awaited her response. What followed was a tangled web of lies. She laughed it off, claiming it was just a harmless outing. "Michael, you know how I am. Always joking around," she said flippantly, but I could see the cracks in her facade. The way she avoided my gaze, the nervousness in her voice. I pushed further, demanding the truth. And that's when I saw the real Jenna, the defensive, lying, and unapologetic version of her. She insisted I was overreacting, even going so far as to accuse me of being controlling. I was stunned. How could she turn this around on me? I was the one hurt, the one betrayed, but she managed to twist it into my fault. I felt anger bubbling inside me. I was a fool to believe her empty words. The confrontation spiraled into a shouting match where she hurled insults, dismissing my feelings as if they were nothing. I was left feeling deflated and alone in a house that felt like a stranger's. The emotional fallout was overwhelming. I moved through shock, anger, and finally a deep sadness that wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. I couldn't believe I was living this nightmare. I was utterly betrayed by someone I trusted implicitly. As the night wore on, my mind raced. I had to figure out how to proceed. Did I want to salvage this marriage? Did I want to live with this unfaithful version of Jenna? I knew I had to make a decision, but for now, all I could do was sit with this pain, replaying the events in my mind and contemplating my next steps. What I learned that night was hard to bear. Love can blind you, and sometimes the person you think you know best can turn into a stranger right before your eyes. I sat there, racked with confusion, contemplating whatever would come next. Life as I knew it had changed irreparably. But I was determined to figure this out, no matter how painful it would be. The days that followed the confrontation were a whirlwind. I felt like I was living in a fog, moving through life like a ghost. I went to work, but my mind was elsewhere, lost in thoughts of Jenna and the betrayal that had shattered my reality. I kept replaying that night in my head, trying to decipher the lies from the truth, searching for some glimmer of hope that we could salvage our marriage. Jenna acted as if nothing had happened. She continued to go out with friends, and I noticed she was on her phone more than usual, always with that same smirk on her face that made me feel sick. It was a sick joke, her pretending everything was normal while I was dying inside. I often saw her laughing and chatting with people, and yet I could barely muster a smile. We shared a home, but the intimacy we once had was gone. The silence between us was deafening. One night, I decided to take a different approach. I thought maybe I could reach out to her, explain how I was feeling, and try to find some common ground. So I planned a little dinner, hoping it might reignite some of the warmth we once had. I cooked her favorite meal, lit some candles, and even put on the music we used to love. When she came home, I could see it in her eyes. She was not interested. She looked at the dinner table, then at me, and shrugged her shoulders. I felt my heart sink. "Jenna, can we talk?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Is this about last week again?" She replied, rolling her eyes. "I really don't want to go over this every single day. Please," I pleaded, trying to keep my emotions in check. "I just want to understand what's going on. I love you and I don't want to lose you." She sighed dramatically, flopping onto a chair and crossing her arms. "Michael, you're being so dramatic. You know I need space and you're suffocating me. I told you nothing happened. Stop being so insecure." In that moment, I realized I was fighting a losing battle. I felt helpless, unable to reach her or connect in any meaningful way. The hurt and anger bubbled up again. "You're lying to my face, Jenna. I saw you with him. You're not even sorry." "Whatever," she snapped, her tone defensive. That was it. There was no remorse, no recognition of the pain she had caused. I felt more alone than ever before. I decided to take a break from the house and visit my parents for the weekend. I needed to clear my mind and think about what I wanted. The moment I stepped into their home, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. My parents were warm and welcoming, and it felt good to be away from the tension with Jenna. Over dinner, I shared the details of what had happened. My mom listened attentively, while my dad offered practical advice. "Michael, you've got to think about your happiness. It's not fair to you to be in a relationship where you're not respected or loved back." Those words stuck with me. I needed to figure out what I wanted, not just for Jenna, but for myself. I took some time to reflect, weighing the pros and cons of fighting for my marriage or walking away. After the weekend, I returned home with a clearer mind, but the situation with Jenna remained unchanged. It felt like we were living in a stalemate. I couldn't stand the thought of her being unfaithful to me, yet a small part of me held on to the hope that she would eventually come around. Maybe she just needed more time. 3 days later, my world flipped upside down again. I wanted to see her, to talk about where we were heading, so I called her at work. "Hey, I know things have been rough, but can we talk tonight? I think we need to figure out where we stand." "Michael," she said, her voice clipped. "I'm really busy right now. Can we do it another time?" Her dismissive tone sent a jolt through me. It was as if she had already written me off. I tried to brush it off, but the feelings of betrayal surged back, and I felt rage boiling inside me again. That evening, I decided to put my plan into action. I needed to know the truth, and I wouldn't be sidelined anymore. I had done enough waiting. I turned to my old friend Jason, who was always up for helping me out. I called him up and explained my situation. "Dude, I'll help you out. We can do some digging," he said. You need a friend to back you up. With that, we set a plan in motion. I wanted concrete evidence of Jenna's betrayal, and Jason was more than willing to join me on this chaotic journey. The next day, I asked him to follow Jenna discreetly. He took it seriously and promised to report back any findings. That evening I waited, my heart racing. Did I really want to dig deeper into this mess? But there was no turning back now. I needed to confront her properly, armed with proof. When Jason finally called me with updates, I felt sick. She was at the same bar again, Michael, with that guy. They were getting cozy, he said, his voice low. I don't know how to tell you this, but it looked like they were more than just friends. I hung up, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt betrayed yet again, but this time I had evidence. I wasn't going to let Jenna dismiss me or our marriage any longer. The emotional turmoil I had lived with for weeks transformed into a burning fury. It was time to confront the truth head-on. I gathered my thoughts and readied myself for the inevitable confrontation. I was done being the victim in this story. I would take charge and uncover the real Jenna, the one hiding behind lies. I would make her face the consequences of her actions. The stage was set, and I was nothing but determined to find the closure I so desperately needed. I would confront her with the truth, and there would be no escaping it this time. The night of the confrontation loomed over me like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation and dread. I spent the day mentally preparing myself, going over the evidence I had in my mind, thinking about the right words to say. I was done being passive. I needed to take control of my life and my marriage. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her walk all over me any longer. When Jenna walked through the door that evening, the air crackled with tension. She was wearing a tight-fitting dress that accentuated her curves, her hair perfectly styled. I felt the anger surge again. Did she think she could distract me with her looks? I had seen through her facade, and this time I was ready to confront her about it. Jenna, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. I gestured toward the living room where I had laid out the evidence on the coffee table, photos from the bar, a timeline of her increasing absences, and a text message from Jason with the details of what he had witnessed. What now? She replied, flipping her hair casually. The nonchalance in her tone grated on my nerves as she plopped down on the couch like nothing was wrong. I'm done pretending that everything is fine, I said, taking a seat across from her and leaning forward. You've been unfaithful to me, Jenna. I know you've been seeing someone else. I watched as her face shifted from surprise to anger. What are you talking about? She shot back, crossing her arms defiantly. You're just being paranoid. You don't have any proof of anything. You think I'm paranoid? I scoffed. You think I'm making this up? Look at your behavior. You've been sneaking around, lying to my face, and it's not just in my head. I pointed to the evidence laid out on the table, my heart racing. You think I wouldn't notice? You've been distant and secretive, and I saw you with him. I know it's true. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt behind the defiance. So what if I went out with someone? It's not like we're in a perfect marriage. You've been a total bore lately, Michael. I felt the anger rise again, but I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. So your solution to our problems is to cheat on me. You think that's acceptable? I'm trying to work things out, but you're just pushing me away. Stop acting like you're the victim here, she retorted, her voice rising. You don't get to play that card. You made me feel trapped. I needed to feel desired again. Desired. I echoed, incredulous. You think that flirting with other guys is going to fix what's wrong with us? You could have talked to me. We could have gone to counseling. I was packing now, feeling the weight of betrayal on my shoulders. What, so you could blame me for your shortcomings? No thanks. She fired back, her eyes flashing with anger. The conversation spiraled from there, with both of us hurling accusations and painful truths at each other. Jenna's excuses became more and more outrageous, as if she were desperately trying to justify her actions. It felt like a twisted game of verbal ping-pong, with each side trying to outdo the other. In the heat of the moment, I finally said the words I had been holding back. You know what? I deserve better than this. I've been nothing but loyal to you, and you've thrown that away like it meant nothing. Her expression shifted from anger to something softer, almost vulnerable for a fleeting second. Michael, I never meant to hurt you. Then why did you? I interrupted, my voice cracking. Why did you betray me? You had a choice. She fell silent, her bravado crumbling. I watched as tears welled up in her eyes. For a moment it seemed like she might finally understand the depth of her betrayal, but then she shook her head, regaining her composure. You don't get to dictate how I feel or what I do. I needed excitement. I needed to know I was still attractive. That was it. I couldn't believe I was hearing this. So you thought cheating was the solution. You could have talked to me, Jenna. We could have worked through it. Work through it, she scoffed. You think talking would magically fix everything. You've been so wrapped up in your own world that you didn't even notice me slipping away. I felt like I was losing my mind. How can you say that? I've given you everything. I supported your career. I was there for you, and this is how you repay me. Maybe I wouldn't have strayed if you had paid more attention to me. She shouted back, her voice breaking. The fight raged on until both of us were exhausted, emotionally drained from throwing all our grievances into the ring. We were hurt, angry, and most importantly, lost. I sat down on the couch, feeling defeated and alone. After a long silence, Jenna finally spoke, her voice quieter now. What do you want me to say, Michael? I messed up, I made a mistake, but you're not innocent in all this either. I didn't know how to respond. The truth hung heavy between us. I had been distant, but that didn't excuse her actions. I don't know if I can get past this, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. What does that mean? She asked, her expression shifting to uncertainty. It means I don't know if I can stay in a marriage built on lies, I replied. I can't live with the betrayal. I need time to think about what I want and what's best for me. I saw the realization wash over her. She was losing the power she thought she had. Are you going to leave me? I don't know, I said honestly, but I can't keep pretending everything is fine either. That moment felt like the beginning of the end. We sat in silence, each lost in our thoughts, the weight of our choices pressing down on us. I knew the decision I would have to make wouldn't be easy. I had to figure out what I truly wanted, and that journey started now. It was painful, but I was finally ready to confront my own heart as much as Jenna's betrayal. This wasn't just about her, it was about me too, my own self-worth. I needed to reclaim that, whatever the outcome. The days following the confrontation were a blur of emotions. I felt like I was in a limbo, suspended between love and betrayal, unsure of what the future held. Every day at home was filled with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Jenna and I barely spoke unless absolutely necessary. It was as if we were two strangers sharing a space, moving around each other like ghosts. After the emotional fallout, I found myself going through an existential crisis. I questioned everything about my life, the marriage I had committed to, the love I thought we shared, and the version of Jenna I had known. I began to understand that I had been living in denial, ignoring the signs as they crept in. I kept asking myself how long this had been going on, and what I might have missed in the process. To cope, I threw myself into work. I immersed myself in projects, trying to drown out the memories of our happier times. But even at work, I found it hard to focus. My colleagues noticed my distraction, and I had to dismiss their concerns. I didn't want to drag anyone else into my mess. One evening, after an exhausting day, I returned home to find Jenna sitting on the couch, her face pale. There was an anxiety in her posture that I hadn't seen before. I hesitated at the door, unsure of how to approach her. She looked up and our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of vulnerability. Michael, can we talk? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Isn't that what we just did? I replied, my tone more biting than I intended. I was still raw from the confrontation, and the hurt was fresh. I know I messed up, she said softly, her eyes pleading. I've been doing a lot of thinking since the fight. I realize how much I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I felt my defenses rise. Sorry doesn't fix this, Jenna. You can't just say sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. You betrayed my trust. I know, but I want to fix it. I want to make things right, she insisted, her eyes shining with tears. Do you even understand what that would mean, what it would take? I asked, crossing my arms over my chest defensively. This isn't just about feeling guilty. This is about the foundation of our marriage being shattered. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, she replied, her voice breaking. I want to go to counseling. I want to work on us. I've realized how much I love you and how stupid I was to think I needed something else to feel alive. Love, you don't throw love away like it's nothing, I shot back, the anger bubbling to the surface again. You don't betray someone you love. Please, she begged. I'm not asking for forgiveness right away. I just want a chance to show you that I can change. I'll do better, Michael, I swear. I watched her, struggling with my own feelings. I wanted to believe her, but the hurt was still too fresh. I could hardly fathom what had driven her to betray me, and every time I thought about it, the pain welled up again. Why? I whispered, my voice breaking. Why did you do it, Jenna? Wasn't I enough? She hesitated, biting her lip as though weighing her next words. I thought I was losing myself in our marriage. I thought I needed excitement, something to make me feel alive again. It was a stupid mistake, and I didn't think about how it would hurt you. Stupid mistake. That's how you justify it. I felt anger surge again, but I fought to keep my emotions in check. You need to understand that what you did was devastating to me. It feels like you've ripped my heart out. I get it, she said, her voice low. But I want a chance to make it up to you, to rebuild what we had. I miss you, Michael, the real you. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to unleash the anger and frustration I had bottled up inside. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw a glimmer of sincerity. Was it possible that she truly wanted to change? Counseling. I echoed, intrigued but skeptical. You think that will fix everything? It's a start, she said, her voice firm. I know I can't erase the past, but I want to work on my issues and our relationship. I owe you that much. I thought about it, weighing the options. Could I really put myself through counseling with her after everything that had happened? The thought of sitting in a room with her and a therapist made my stomach turn. I don't know, Jenna. It's going to take more than just saying you're sorry to make me believe you, I replied, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I'm willing to show you, she insisted, reaching out to take my hand. I flinched for a moment but then allowed her to hold on to me. I don't want to lose you, Michael. You mean everything to me. I'll do whatever it takes. In that moment, I felt a storm of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to throw my hands up and walk away, to forget her entirely. The other part, the part that still loved her deeply, was yearning for the connection we once had. All right, I finally said, the words feeling heavy on my tongue. We can try counseling, but I need you to understand that it's not going to be easy. It's going to take time, and you need to be committed to this. I will, she said, her voice filled with determination. I promise you I will do whatever it takes. As I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of hope there. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. But I was under no illusions. This was going to be a long and arduous process. The next day, I reached out to a marriage counselor I had found online. I scheduled an appointment, feeling a mix of apprehension and hope. I wanted to believe we could rebuild, but it would take both of us being fully committed to the journey ahead. The path of healing would not be easy. I knew there would be tears, arguments, and moments when I wanted to give up. But I also felt a spark of determination rise within me. I was willing to fight for love, even if it meant facing my own demons along the way. As we began this tumultuous journey toward healing, I realized that it was not just about Jenna's betrayal. It was also about rediscovering myself, understanding my own needs, and learning to communicate effectively in a way that had been lost. We were both standing at a crossroads, and the decisions we made from here on out would dictate the future of our relationship. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time I felt a hint of optimism. Maybe we could find our way back to the love we once shared, or maybe it was time to let go and start anew. Only time would tell. The first session with the counselor was awkward, to say the least. Jenna and I sat on opposite ends of the couch, the gap between us feeling like a chasm. Dr. Williams, our counselor, was a middle-aged woman with a warm smile and a calm demeanor. She seemed genuinely interested in helping us, but I could feel the tension in the room as we exchanged nervous glances. "Thank you both for coming in today," she began, her voice soothing. "It takes courage to seek help, especially after what you've been through. I'd like to start by having each of you share your feelings about what brought you here." Jenna went first, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke. "I know I messed up. I betrayed Michael, and I've hurt him deeply. I've been feeling lost in the marriage, and instead of talking to him, I made a terrible mistake. I'm here because I want to fix it." I love him and I want to make things right, she said, glancing over at me, her eyes filled with regret. I swallowed hard, trying to process her words. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I remained guarded. I'm here because I don't know what to do anymore, I admitted. Everything feels broken. I feel betrayed and I'm struggling to trust Jenna again. I want to believe that we can fix this, but I don't know how. Dr. Williams nodded thoughtfully. It's completely normal to feel the way you do, Michael. Trust takes time to rebuild, and both of you need to understand that this is a process. Healing doesn't happen overnight. Jenna nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I understand that. I want to work on my issues and be honest about everything. I don't want to keep secrets anymore. The session continued, with Dr. Williams guiding us through various topics, from our communication patterns to our individual feelings about intimacy. I could tell Jenna was genuinely trying to open up, and I appreciated her willingness to take the first step. But as I listened, a sense of unease settled in my stomach. Let's talk about boundaries, Dr. Williams suggested, her tone professional yet gentle. Michael, what boundaries do you feel are necessary for you to begin rebuilding trust? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her question. I need to know that Jenna is being honest with me, that she's not hiding anything. I want to be involved in her life, but I need to feel secure. I can't handle any more secrets. I understand, Dr. Williams said, jotting down notes. Jenna, how do you feel about that? I agree, she said earnestly. I want to be transparent with Michael. I don't want to give him any reason to doubt. Me again. I'll share my phone and social media accounts if it helps. The offer surprised me, but I appreciated her willingness to be open. It means a lot that you're willing to do that, I replied cautiously. But it's not just about sharing devices. It's about rebuilding the emotional connection we've lost. As the session progressed, we started to delve into the underlying issues that had led to Jenna's infidelity. I realized that we had both been neglecting our emotional needs for too long. Our communication had broken down, and in trying to support each other, we had inadvertently drifted apart. Dr. Williams encouraged us to explore what love and affection meant to each of us. How do you both express and receive love? She asked. The question hung in the air, challenging us to confront our emotional realities. I think I've always shown love through acts of service, I said slowly. I cook, I help out around the house, I try to support Jenna in her career. But I also need words of affirmation. I need to know that I'm appreciated. Jenna nodded. I think I've been more focused on the excitement, rather than nurturing the relationship. I often felt taken for granted, but I know now that I should have communicated that instead of seeking attention elsewhere. I appreciate your honesty, Dr. Williams said, encouraging us to keep digging deeper. Recognizing how we express love is a crucial step in rebuilding your connection. By the end of the session, I felt both exhausted and hopeful. We had scratches on the surface of our issues, but it was a start. As we left, Jenna turned to me, her expression serious. I really want this to work, Michael. I'm willing to do the hard work. I hope you can see that. I see the effort, but it's going to take time for me to trust you again, I replied honestly. I'm willing to try, but we need to keep communicating. In the weeks that followed, we attended counseling sessions regularly. The process was often uncomfortable, forcing us to confront not just our relationship but ourselves as individuals. I learned to vocalize my feelings more openly, and Jenna worked on being vulnerable and transparent. We tackled painful topics, including our insecurities and fears. I discovered that Jenna had often felt neglected in our marriage, while I had felt overwhelmed by work and responsibility. We both had been operating under the assumption that love would keep us connected without realizing the importance of actively nurturing it. One night, after a particularly challenging therapy session, I found myself sitting on the balcony, watching the stars. Jenna joined me, wrapping her arms around me as she nestled close. I'm scared, Michael, she confessed. I'm scared that we might not make it. I turned to her, searching her eyes for the truth. I'm scared too, but I believe we can get through this. We've got to keep putting in the effort. Love isn't just about the good times, it's about facing the challenges together. Jenna nodded, biting her lip as she fought back tears. I want to fight for us. I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you either, I replied softly. But we both need to be all in. No more hiding or pretending. It's time to be real with each other. As the days turned into weeks, we began to find our rhythm. We started rebuilding the emotional intimacy we had lost, taking time to connect in ways we hadn't before. We shared our hopes and dreams, our fears and regrets. We laughed together again, and I started to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. But lingering doubts still hovered in the back of my mind. Would our foundation be strong enough to withstand future challenges? Will we be able to truly forgive and forget? I realized that healing is not linear, and there would still be moments of doubt and insecurity. As we continued on this journey, I found strength in the idea that every relationship is a work in progress. No matter the challenges we faced, I was determined to navigate this path together. It was going to be a long road ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for our future. I knew that reconciliation would not happen overnight, but I was willing to put in the effort. We were both committed to transforming our marriage and rebuilding what had been lost. And for that moment, that was enough. As weeks turned into months, Jenna and I continued our journey through counseling and self-discovery. Each session brought its own challenges, but we faced them together. It was a slow process, filled with ups and downs, but I could see the change in both of us. Jenna began to open up about her feelings more honestly. She shared her struggles with self-esteem and how it had driven her to seek validation outside our marriage. For the first time, I could see the depth of her vulnerability, and it made me realize how much we had both been suffering in silence. I too was forced to confront my own issues, my workaholic tendencies, my fear of confrontation, and my need to control every aspect of my life. It was liberating to acknowledge these flaws, and with Jenna's support, I began to let go of some of that control. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find Jenna cooking dinner. The delicious smell wafted through the air, and as I walked into the kitchen, I felt a warmth I hadn't experienced in a long time. She looked up with a smile, and I felt a spark of our old connection. "Hey, you're home early," she said, her eyes brightening. "I made your favorite. I thought we could have a nice dinner together." The gesture took me by surprise, but it warmed my heart. "Thanks, Jenna. It looks amazing," I replied, taking in the scene. She had put real effort into making the evening special. I could feel the love in that simple act. As we sat down to eat, we talked about our day, sharing stories about work, our friends, and even our hopes for the future. It felt so normal, yet it was a reminder of how far we had come. The laughter returned, and for the first time in a while I felt a genuine sense of happiness. After dinner, Jenna suggested we go for a walk. The weather was pleasant, and the evening air was filled with the soft sounds of nature. We strolled hand in hand, and I noticed how comfortable it felt. It was as if we were rediscovering each other all over again. "Michael, I've been thinking," Jenna said as we walked, "about everything we've been through. I know I can't change the past, but I want to create a better future with you. You've been so patient, and I appreciate it more than I can say." I turned to her, wanting her to know how much I appreciated her effort. "It hasn't been easy for either of us, but I can see the changes in you. I want to believe in us again, Jenna. I really do." That night, as we returned home, I realized how much I had missed moments like this, simple, yet profound. I didn't want to overlook any of the small victories we had achieved together, nor did I want to take our progress for granted. The following weeks were filled with more of these small moments, cooking together, sharing our fears and dreams, and even engaging in deeper conversations about our relationship. We started taking weekend trips, exploring new places as a way to bond and reconnect. One Friday night, we sat down to watch a movie, something simple yet intimate. As the credits rolled, Jenna turned to me, her expression serious. "I want to be transparent about everything moving forward. I've started writing down my feelings and thoughts. I think it'll help me communicate better. Would you be okay with sharing that process?" I found her suggestion refreshing. "Of course. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to share that with you. I want us both to feel heard and valued," I replied, feeling hopeful about this new chapter. As we continued to grow closer, I found myself reflecting on the lessons learned from this experience. Betrayal had rocked the foundation of our relationship, yet it had also forced us to confront our weaknesses and shortcomings. It was painful, but necessary. I learned the importance of communication, of voicing my needs and fears instead of letting them fester. And I learned that vulnerability, though scary, was the key to true intimacy. It was a lesson I hoped to carry with me, regardless of what the future held. As the months passed, I felt a sense of trust beginning to blossom again. It wasn't instantaneous, nor was it without its moments of doubt, but we were both committed to nurturing our relationship. I found strength in the knowledge that love is not just about the good times. It is about facing challenges together, learning from them, and growing stronger as a result. One evening, as we sat on the balcony watching the sunset, I took a moment to reflect on how far we had come. I turned to Jenna, a smile spreading across my face. "You know, I never thought we'd get to this point again. I'm proud of us." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Me too, Michael. I'm so grateful you've been willing to fight for us. It means everything." In that moment, I understood that while our relationship had been through a storm, we were emerging on the other side, stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. We had both learned that love requires ongoing effort, and it was a journey worth taking together. As we leaned into each other, I couldn't help but feel hope for the future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew that we would face them together, hand in hand, ready to navigate the road ahead. That night, I went to bed with a sense of peace, ready to embrace whatever came next. We were rebuilding our love, one day at a time, and I was committed to making it last.